What's up, bitches? Today is Tuesday, December 10th, 2013. My name's Ryan Bish, and this is Sit Down Comedy. Hi. You ever have one of those days where even when it's like almost 2:30 in the afternoon, you just can't talk to anyone unless you're drinking coffee? I mean, I've never had a day like that, but I'm just wondering if any of you lovely people have. Speaking of coffee, funny story. So I am currently crashing with my best friend, Edition Gay, and his roommate on this here couch, and they both like to tease me because apparently when I make coffee, it is way too strong. And I'm just like, hey, shut up. You would understand this if you had ever seen Gilmore Girls. In conclusion, shut up. This is falling out. So anyway, as much as I love them both, I'm obviously doing everything I can to figure out some sort of more permanent housing situation. And, like, you know, I would be wanting to sort this out anyway. But even if I had no other motivation, if you guys can use your imaginations and pretend this is a map of Seattle, the Art Institute, where I will be pursuing my BFA, bitches, in photography starting in January, is like somewhere around here. Kent, where they live, is like down here. So that's like an hour on the bus from here to here and from here to here. So that's like 2 hours a day. That's not cool. I mean, it's not the worst thing ever because it gives me an excuse to read and listen to music and play Tetris Blitz. But that's 2 hours a day that I could be doing whatever, and you know what they say about time and money and whatever. So yeah, I am looking to change my address situation, preferably sooner than later. And before I talk about what I'm doing, I want to describe for you guys kind of my ideal living situation. Excuse me. Am I the only person who drinks coffee and then can't stop burping? Anyway, my ideal living situation is so far not something I've actually personally experienced, but when I lived in Indiana, I had the pleasure of working with this awesome guy named Curtis, who lived in a gigantic house, like bigger than this. It was about the size of the Great Hall from the Harry Potter movies, the whole house. And there were multiple bathrooms, and he had like 11 roommates, and everybody just chipped in like $200, if that, for rent every month. And you know, they divvied up the utility bills however they did, and everybody chipped in for groceries, and it was just, it sounded amazing, and that's what I want. And it's looking like I'm not going to find that, which is okay, because I'm actually like this close to putting myself into another living situation, which is just as awesome. And I'll tell you guys more about that once it's final, and I can, you know, shoot a video from a different location. But anyway, hang on one second. Okay, so whenever I need to find a new home, I go to Craigslist, which, I know what you're thinking, but the truth is, in 2011, a very dear friend of mine who has sadly committed suicide since then, recommended Craigslist to me, and I told her that I was very afraid because I didn't want to be serial murdered and blah blah blah. And she pointed out that she had found her last home on Craigslist and lived there for 3 years and loved it, and basically I was sold. Partly because Craigslist is kind of my only option, because I am one of those people who turned 19 and learned the hard way that they should not give credit cards to 18-year-olds. So anyway, I have spent most of the last month looking for something livable on Craigslist, and I have just gotten very frustrated. Personally, I don't believe hell is a real thing. I tend to respond to something Neil Gaiman once said, which is that I don't think hell is a place you go. I think it's something you carry around with you. But if it was a real place, I think it would be just barely noticeably different for, lots of different people. And I think some people would find their version of hell was trying to find a decent place to live on the budget one would expect from an art institute or an art student who is not Bruce Wayne rich. That budget is not considerable. It's the opposite of considerable. So anyway, I have found that a lot of ads have a lot of qualifications which cause me a lot of stress and anger. One of those is no students, to which I can only say, fuck you. Other ads like to get a little more specific, and they say, no full-time students, part-time students okay. Fuck you until you get herpes. A lot of ads stress female roommate preferred, which is hilarious because do you know who else would prefer a female roommate? Okay, so just in case I didn't make this perfectly clear when I started the video, because, I've had a lot of coffee, so my thoughts are kind of all over the place. In my quest to find my ideal living situation, obviously I have been looking not so much for apartments, but rooms for rent, and which has its own section on Craigslist, so it's super easy to look. Not so easy to find anything, but looking is super easy. And even if you're in that section, a lot of ads, you read them and they sound great, and the pictures are beautiful, and then you get to the end, and they say, first month's rent, last month's rent, and security deposit required to move in. Required. Okay, here's the thing. One of those three things, totally acceptable, I can deal with that. Two of those three things, sure, fine. But all three? Okay, you want me to give you the first month's rent, the last month's rent, and a security deposit. You are not running an apartment complex. You are trying to rent out one room in your home to make some extra cash. Get over yourself. Another thing I hate is that Craigslist lets you filter your search results according to, specific neighborhoods and shit. And a lot of people like to create ads and list them under, and I'm using verbal, sarcastic quote marks as I say this, Seattle area. And I think there should be some sort of Craigslist law against that, because, okay, if you live in Capitol Hill, that's Seattle. If you live in Belltown, that's Seattle. If you live in Queen Anne, that's Seattle. If you live in Tukwila, that's not Seattle. If you live in Tacoma, that's not Seattle. If you live in Renton, that's not Seattle. And every time I see this shit and I click on it and I find out they don't actually live in Seattle, but they describe it as Seattle area, I just look at the ad and I give the ad my best black girl stare, and I hope the people who wrote the ad can feel it from my screen and into theirs, Because honestly, you guys, my black girl stare makes people uncomfortable. I would demonstrate it for you now, but I don't want to give anybody nightmares. I'm proud of myself for having the foresight to make coffee before I do most of these videos, because sometimes I try to make jokes about things that really piss me the fuck off. So the coffee helps. Guys, true story, this is almost gone, and I think when it is, I'm gonna have to make another pot, so. What else was I gonna say? Oh yeah, what do you guys think of my outfit? Honestly, I'm not 100% sold, because I think it makes me look like, I don't know, but, Ray already said it was a good idea. What do you think? Anyway, that's basically all I have. I'm sorry to end this on kind of a note, but it's real life, you know? Anyway, I love 99% of all of you, and I will see you next time, bitches.